know Kate Shanks Booth said she has to leave at 4. Kate, was there any announcements or anything that you had that you wanted to share or check in about?
No, just basically wanted to let you guys know that the execs group, the Executive Exchange of Tompkins County, had our retreat for the social justice and diversity statement that was put out. We have roughly 100 of the 120 nonprofits executive directors either intending to sign or have signed, so that's awesome. And they're going to be working with the Diversity Consortium to weave that into what we're talking about. So, and we have asked Ken Clark to be, he is and graciously has accepted to be vice chair with me this coming year. So we're going to be able to work together and hopefully bring some cool stuff back to you guys and just continue to connect the pieces. So that's what I have. So thank you, Ken.
Great. So I see Ken just chimed in. Kate has to leave early today. She has to leave at 4. So she was just giving us a little bit of an update. I know we'll be talking about some of this stuff later. Does anybody else have to get out early today?
I'm going to get to 4:30, but
4:30?
I also have a 4:30 deadline today as well. Sorry.
Okay. No worries. So I'll check in with I guess Kit will do first. Is there I know I had spoken to you offline if there were some updates you were willing to give, you know, as we're heading into the cold season, or actually we're into the cold season. So Deanna, don't worry, it's not going to get any colder than this, any snowier than this. We are in the heart of it. That's right now. So
don't believe her, Deanna.
Yeah, she's got a bridge to sell you.
So Kit, do you want to give us a little update?
Sure. So we, you and I had talked, Anne, about talking a little bit about Code Blue, which officially, let's see, is today December 2nd? It is. So Code Blue season officially began yesterday. However, when we talk about Code Blue and official, really what that means is that every day between now and I believe it's April 15th can be considered a Code Blue day, kind of as a guarantee. And then we have these shoulder seasons. So between October 1st and November 30th, we have been at times having Code Blue nights when the weather turns 32 degrees with wind chill. Then it qualifies as a Code Blue night, but we don't have that guarantee. So as of yesterday, December 1st, we are in the guaranteed Code Blue season. We have not seen tremendously high numbers of folks coming in for Code Blue, but we are seeing a consistent small number of people that are being sheltered. We, to kind of give you a general sense, we currently have 75 people so far this week who are considered homeless and sheltered. That consists of 67 individuals, 2 families that consists of 4 adults, and then there are 4 children among those 2 families. So that gives you a little bit of a sense of kind of who are being sheltered. We have seen this past summer, we averaged about 125 people that were sheltered per month between like June, July, and August. And we were seeing about the same kind of numbers in the fall. So we anticipate now that numbers will climb. We have seen, and obviously the encampments are something separate in terms of DSS does outreach to the encampments, but we do not otherwise, we don't have any special program that reaches out to the folks that are in the encampment other than what we have in terms of sheltering and rehousing folks. But we are seeing that number, our outreach people are seeing that number in the encampments rise some right now. We don't really know exactly why that is, but we are doing outreach. We have seen some folks coming in and accessing services through us and also coming directly to the shelter. So it's a population of folks that we are trying to work with, we are trying to reach out to. And the big push there is to really try to get housing vouchers out to people so that we can get people into permanent housing as soon as possible if they come in for sheltering. So that work is going. We are really pleased. We have 11 applications for our ESG, the Emergency Solutions to Homelessness grant, that we just started about a week ago. So we've had 11 families. That is money that comes from the CARES Act. It's specifically designated for families that have been affected by COVID. We are really pleased that the word is out. People are beginning to really come in and try to access that. Obviously, our STEP programs, the Solutions to End Homelessness program, which is a grant that we get through OTDA, and we have received for many years. The ESG is new and related specifically to COVID, whereas STEP is something that's been ongoing. The STEP program is also active, and we see an influx of folks coming at this time of year as well. We are holding our breath right now because we really don't know what's going to happen with the eviction moratorium that's currently in force. We have heard that that's going to go away at the end of the year, and if it does, we anticipate that we're going to see potentially many more folks coming to us that will be looking for assistance with housing and just general financial support. But obviously, with the ESG money that we have, and with the continued STEP grant money, we're hoping to really try to get people rehoused as quickly as we can, minimize the number of people that are sheltered, and especially right now with the risk of COVID, try to keep people somewhat separate from one another. So that's kind of a general rundown. I don't know, did I miss anything, Anne, from what you and I had talked about?
I don't think so. I know this isn't the regular committee you report to about these type of things, but for me, I was just, thinking about how this disproportionately having a home and being home insecure, being homeless. I mean, that affects our most vulnerable population and disproportionately affects, certain populations. So I just wanted, just a check in on that. Did anybody have any questions for Kit on this or further discussion? Are people aware of what Code Blue means as far as us having to provide housing for people during that time? Does anybody need an explanation? Do you want to explain, Kit, how that trips a certain criteria, or when we do have cold blue, when it's a certain temperature?
Sure. So the governor has put in back in, I think it was 2016, put in place what is called both a code blue and a code red. Although we don't hear much about code red. Code red is in the summer, and when things get extremely hot, there is a provision for people who might need cooling. In our area, we really don't run into that very much. We have enough provisions typically for that, but in the city they see that. So in our area, it's primarily code blue. Code blue is really providing sheltering to people that are homeless, that don't have a place to be warm when the temperature drops to 32 degrees with wind chill. So it can be warmer than 32 degrees on the bulb thermometer, but if the wind chill is such that it actually comes out to be 32 degrees, then we have an obligation to shelter people. And obviously we have a shelter program that runs year round, and so we are always trying to be aware and serve people, make sure people aren't on the street. But when it comes to code blue, services, what it really means is that people are able to come in and get sheltering regardless of whether or not they qualify for what we call temporary housing assistance, which is a program through OTDA, through the Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance through the state. So that's in a nutshell what the program is. We work with St. John's Community Services just like we do for Code Blue services, just like we do regular sheltering. And Code Blue services are provided in a number of different formats, but most often they're provided in a congregate setting. So typically what happens is St. John's contracts with a number of different sites. They work with some churches, they work with the Salvation Army, and then people are provided with sheltering overnight, typically in a congregate setting in one of those locations, so that people can be warm and housed. There's typically meals that go along with those services. And then of course, most of the time the Code Blue population also relies on St. John's for additional services like meals. They have the food pantry, there are showers, that kind of thing, as well as I think some laundry facilities. So all of that's available to folks. So that's kind of the program in a nutshell.
Thank you, Kit. Any questions for Kit or further discussion? Thank you very much for giving us an update and overview of that.
Absolutely.
And I know you said you have to leave at 4:30. So let's go back to our agenda. Are there any, or Jason, you had said you have to leave too. Was there anything at 4:30? Is there anything that you wanted us to make sure we got to on our agenda, or do you have any report?
The only thing I was going to do an update on, Ann, was the reimagining public safety.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and do that now, and then after Jason does that, we're going to do we'll do announcements and then the minutes approval. Go ahead, Jason, if you're ready.
So, sure, thank you. So we've done four public voice forums. We have received quite a bit of public feedback through all of those forums. They are now starting focus groups right now. So some of the focus groups, which are much smaller groups of individuals, are getting together through facilitated conversations, and they're getting that feedback. That's all then being going to assembled. And the different work groups will start to process and analyze that feedback, which will ultimately make its way into the final report. I want to say that we have, I don't know how many focus groups total, Deanna, do you know?
We have 18 scheduled. There are a couple of additional that we will be hosting, and on top of that.
So there will be a lot, I would say a lot of different feedback from a lot of different populations in the community, which is good. We've had a lot of participation in the community voice forums. I don't know if anybody's listened to them or tuned into them. So we've also received a lot of feedback from that. From that point on, I also think that the sheriff, the chief mayor, myself, and Savante are going to also be answering some questions in an upcoming forum that we've been receiving to start some two-way dialogue so far from what we received. Then I believe the timeline will be these focus groups will carry through December, and I believe a draft report will start to assemble some of this information and start to be put together towards the end of January with a draft plan presented to the legislature. I want to say by the end of January, early February. Does that sound about right, Deanna, in terms of timeline?
Yes, it'll be closer to the end of February, but yes, that's correct.
Also, probably starting the beginning next year, we'll probably request that a special meeting of the legislature be set for the last week of March, so that there's, we can capture the most amount of time in March, an additional week or two, if there's any more discussion or editing or thoughts that can be shared prior to finalizing the plan and then adopted by the legislature by the end of March. So, I mean, that's where we're at right now. It's a lot of activity over the past few weeks, and I would say a lot more activity is going to be coming in the next few weeks. A lot of people working on this. I can't even begin to name all the individuals on different work groups that have been spending a lot of time. Deanna is doing a stellar job in managing the project and keeping communication with all of these different groups, regularly speaking with CPE on a regular basis. So I think a lot of things are moving. A lot of activity, a lot of dialogue is happening, and we'll just continue that through the end of December. With the different focus groups that'll be taking place, and then start to assemble some information with some recommendations moving forward. There will also be at least one public hearing that the legislature will be required to have as part of its process once a draft plan is submitted to you prior to adoption. And I think our goal is to give to give at least a month of time between submission to adoption.
Great. Leslie, you have something you want to say?
I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
One, how are the focus groups being selected, determined, or how have they been put together, selected, determined? And my second question is, since this has been a collaborative effort, I'm assuming, which I still don't have it right, coming out of the end, on the end, there will be a document related to the Sheriff's Department, separate from what will be related to the IPD, etc.
Right.
Is that correct?
To answer your second question first, there will be, I think, a lot of overlap. I don't know if there will be distinct sections of one document or there'll be two separate documents. I mean, I think there'll be just some distinctions between the two. There'll be a lot of common information amongst them as well. But I don't know. I don't know that we have a conclusion yet as to whether or not there'll be two distinctly different documents or one document with different sections related to each department. As far as the focus groups, Deanna, I'm going to ask you to help a little bit with the different focus groups and selections.
Sure. And so the Communications and Community Work Group is comprised of, which is led by Shelley Michelle Nunn from the city of Ithaca. And so with that group, there were some academic folks, some folks from the community, folks from both the Tompkins County and the city of Ithaca. With that in mind, the criteria was they wanted to have folks who are from underrepresented groups, but also, even more importantly, those who had been justice involved. And so though they specifically looked at the BIPOC community, Latinx community, they have a focus group tomorrow, folks with disabilities. We're actually looking on bringing a veterans group online. They had an LGBTQ focus group yesterday. My understanding is the outreach has been a lot of folks using their community contacts to identify those most in need. I know specifically with the unhoused population, we've had a lot of support from folks like Richard Rivera, who's been using some of his connections to do some of that work. And then we've also had some folks from the university and students work to help support the recruitment of college students and looking at students from the various colleges with Cornell and Ithaca and TC3. And then also specifically related to reentry, there have been folks who again, justice involved, trying to connect with those nonprofit organizations, also those community leaders in those areas to help us identify folks specifically from a targeted perspective to ensure that we have the right population. And then as what's also happened is as we've gone through the process, we'll realize that folks have been missed or did you have this name? So we've added them to the process along the way. So that's how, to my understanding, that folks have been identified and selected. So it hasn't been a mass distribution. A part of the concern in terms of fidelity of the research is if we were to put out an all call or a mass distribution, they were worried that we would dilute the population. And so it was requested that we continue to have a very, very hands-on approach, reaching out to contacts directly, but also with the COVID environment, it's been a challenge in terms of marketing and solicitation, because we also recognize that some of the folks that we're trying to reach it's difficult to do a Zoom discussion. So looking at ways to make sure that we provide the correct opportunities.
Thanks, Deanna.
Yes.
May I ask a follow-up?
Yes.
So there's a group of folks who for however many weeks now have been protesting every Sunday outside of the police station. Do you know if anyone has reached out to anyone in that group, the leadership, to get that group in particular for a focus group?
I would have to ask specifically about names. I know that there have been tons of names. And so being honest, I don't know all the people specifically, but I can tell you, I know that folks from Black Lives Matter have been reached out to, and I've actually received the names of several other groups. And so without being on the ground and specifically being intimately aware of the names, but if we could have if you send me an email, or I'll reach out to you and say, have these people been contacted, I can absolutely confirm or deny.
I don't know if it's necessarily names. I'm just more interested in if that group, which has been very vocal about police reform and defund the police, if that specific group has had anyone contact them or reached out. That's all. I don't know what all the names are, but
Sure.
just checking on that. Because
Absolutely.
I would assume their voice would be very essential to this process.
Absolutely. We'll check on that and confirm that if they haven't been contacted, we'll make sure we make the correct contact.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments? Rachel?
So I have heard from a couple of organizers from the Sunday protest that at least 2 of them have been contacted. Also, one question I had is who's doing the facilitating for the focus groups?
So there are more than 9 facilitators. All of them have particular training around facilitation of these groups, professional facilitation. And so they've been identified. There are researchers from the various colleges and also those who've just gone through facilitation training who are doing the focus groups. And the focus groups actually have had specific meetings related to their particular area of expertise. And so they were able to select those groups that we believe would be the best pairing to make folks feel most comfortable. For example, Jason made an astute observation a couple of weeks ago as we were going through the process, making sure that law enforcement actually was conducted by Center for Policing Equity, because we have folks with law enforcement experience speaking to them directly. And also knowing that because it's such a sensitive, it's going to be a challenging topic, they may not be as open with folks that they know here directly. So thinking about those things in a very, very nuanced way is of critical importance. And also I think that Leslie's comment overall speaks to a really important issue as we think about this. The thing that we're trying to be successful in is making sure that we have that one-on-one touch with folks. And so getting down to grassroots. And so taking the 100-foot view to the grassroots level, you're out there protesting every week. Where is your voice, and ensuring that we incorporate those things? And I can tell you there's been a ton of effort to ensure that that happens. And so we'll be interviewing, we will be having focus groups for the next 30 days. But also, in addition to that, the next level is for those who may not want to be in a focus group, they're also going to do individual interviews with folks that are even harder to reach. And so that's the next level of research that will be conducted to ensure that we hear all those voices. So if somebody is not captured in a focus group, but they have a particular story or something that needs to be elevated in the process, we will contact them. And also the reason why we're trying to do the focus groups first is because we'll have a better idea in terms of who we've captured. And then we can identify from there, who did we miss, and then interview those folks.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Jason and Deanna, for giving us an update on that. So next, are there any announcements for anything that's going on that people would like to give a shout out to?
Yeah. So I want to make sure that I invite everyone on this call, if you have some time tomorrow, to join us for the GIAC annual, what do you call it? Annual meeting, 5:30 tomorrow. And if you go to GIAC's Facebook page or our website, you'll be able to get the link that you can attend. And I also want to share, this happens next year, but I'll start early sharing. March 1st, Monday, March 1st, 7 p.m. The Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Commemoration Committee at Cornell University, something that Dr. Clark is very familiar with because it's a program that he ran, will be hosting its annual MLK lecture event. The speaker for this year, we just decided on the speaker for this year, is Ijeoma Olua, who is the author of So You Want to Talk About Race. It's at 7 p.m. It's the public session at 7 p.m. And it's all, of course, online. So stay tuned for more information. Um, usually when the speakers come or are doing an event, we usually have a public, portion for them that GIAC hosts, but the speaker this year is not interested in doing that event. And so that's not going to happen. So we're encouraging everybody to go to that event. On that note, I don't know if you can see it. You probably can because I have a virtual background, but yeah, you can't see it. But this is the book. And, we bought it at GIAC and all of our staff are reading it. And we're going to have our own discussion. And I do want to encourage, it's a really good read. Us as a county to do something similar. I know Dr. Clark already has the reading and discussion program coming up with the book is How to Be an Anti-Racist, but this is also a really good read, and maybe we think about it for the fall session of reading and discussion program, or the county might consider hosting a whole community read. Some of you might remember Understanding to Overcome, U2O, that series, which was really well received by the community. This time around with Zoom, we might be able to do something. So I just want to plant that seed. And that's my announcement. And January 18th, oh good Lord, I can't remember anymore. The Saturday before the MLK holiday is GIAC's annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Community Breakfast. Although we will not be hosting a breakfast, it's on Saturday, the 16th of January, where we're all gathering because we can't do that. We'll be still hosting an event honoring and recognizing the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It is our hope to bring in a presenter, more sort of a workshop type thing, to bring in a presenter who is known nationally and who can, engage us in a nice conversation. Our theme this year is Facing the Divide. So mark your calendars for the 16th. It's a bring your own breakfast, but attend and engage in meaningful dialogue and conversation. That's it for me.
Thank you, Leslyn. Any other announcements? And I did forget to mention that Henry Granison isn't able to join us today for this meeting because he's taking training through GARE today.
And I had gotten an email from Larry Roberts too, that he asked to be excused.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if we can vote on the minutes from October 28th. Would someone like to move the minutes from October 28th? Leslyn? Do we have a second? And Lisa seconds that? Or was there, are there any corrections or discussion on the minutes? Okay, we'll do a roll call. I'll start with Kate since I know she has to leave soon. Kate? We're voting on the minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Lisa?
Yes.
Deanna?
Yes.
Rachel?
Yes.
Kit?
Yes.
Dr. Clark?
Yes.
Leslyn?
Yes.
Amy?
I'll vote on them, but I'm not a committee member, Annie.
Oh,
I was
sorry. I think we have enough of a quorum, right, Kathy?
Yes, you do.
Okay. All right. So and I'll vote yes, so that those pass. And Amy would vote yes, but it doesn't count. Okay, thanks. You want to vote yes also, but it doesn't count? There's a there's a show that, so anyway, I won't get into that. So the next up is discussion item from Dr. Clark regarding the workforce reading and discussion program. Would you like to give us an update on that?
Sure. I'm gonna see if I can do a share screen here. Let's see.
Kathy, does he have permission to do a shared screen?
Yes, he does.
Okay, let me find the screen I want to share. It's not showing up here. Okay, what I wanted to share is not showing up on my end of things. But anyway, very soon we will be announcing the save the date for the workforce reading and discussion group, which will begin on Wednesday, January the 20th, 2 days after the King holiday. And we will be discussing, as was mentioned previously, Ibram Kendi's book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, which is one of the New York Times top-selling books for 2020. And Belisa Gonzalez, associate professor of Ithaca College and the director of the Center for the Study of Race and Ethnicity at IC, will be the facilitator. So we will be meeting on 4 consecutive Wednesdays, starting on January 20th to January 27th, 7th, February 3rd, and February 10th. And focused on this book. We will be expanding the registration from 15 to 20 people, particularly in light of the pandemic, to provide more opportunities for people to participate. And we are in process of purchasing the books, which we will have available for pickup here at OHR. And so we're excited about this series. And I have provided a template letter that eventually will be going out and will be undersigned by Jason, Annie, and Leslin, and to announce the beginning of this, and then that will be followed up by subsequent publicity, along with a online location to register for the event. So we're excited about this and looking forward to conversations that emerge as we continue individually and collectively as a county to work on issues in ways in which we center racial and other forms of equity at the heart of our work through our examination and address of programs, policies, practices, and those sorts of things. So I think this book is, I think, a timely addition to this broader discussion and action in which we're involved.
Thank you, Ken. Does anybody have any questions or comments on that?
Sorry, I feel like I'm talking a lot. I do have a comment. It's real simple. I don't have to sign that letter, Ken. When I was chair of WDIC, it made sense. I don't have to. You have Annie and you have Jason.
Okay. Well, I was going by last year's letter in which the chair, Martha, signed as chair of the legislature.
You can take me off. It's okay. Annie and Jason are good enough.
Okay.
That's all right, Ken. I can forge Leslie's signature. It's all right. Don't worry about it.
Actually, we already got that forgery. I was just waiting for her to approve it. That's all.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. And I just sent, that I think it looks great. So thank you for being flexible with the dates. I know,
Sure.
I know a lot of people have children home already. Especially now we've seen, I think, almost all the schools close in the county. So I appreciate that. your
Sure.
flexibility with that. Okay, so we'll go on to the next topic, which is the Facing Race Conference update. And I intended this kind of like, not just to stick at this just on Deanna, but also if other people that were able to attend wanted to, discuss this a little bit. So, but I'll put Deanna on the spot to open it up a little bit.
Sure, no problem. Thank you. And we'll make this a collaborative update and an engaging dialogue here. So we had 9 participants from the county, including our leadership from WDIC. So thank you for your support and leading our delegation and attending the conference. I also received a scholarship from, I believe, is the Dorothy Cotton Foundation. So, and we had a debrief session yesterday with other community folks who attended as well, and trying to identify ways in which we can work together. I was proud to be able to say that Tompkins County, we had a staff debrief last week regarding what we learned and their takeaways from the conference. Specifically, the topic that resonated with folks most was the concept of fusion organization. And so, and how do we think about that as an organization? And then also, of course, Dr. Barber's speech resonated with all of us, and the Poor People's Campaign and the work and how we can actually operationalize some of the 14 strategies that he identified in our organization. Based upon our debrief that we had, I'm gonna follow up with some of the department heads and some other folks about how we can work together around that conversation in conjunction with Team Jedi. So Rachel was there, Dr. Clark was there, and so I'll pass it on to you, but I found it to be empowering. It was my first time attending the conference, and so I had a great time. My favorite part was the DJ breaks with all the music and the dancing. So I did the robot at home by myself.
Do you want to skip right now to the video of you doing the robot? Do you have that?
I don't want to overwhelm you with greatness today, so I'll keep that to myself.
We appreciate that. So you said Rachel, and who else was there? Was it Dr. Clark?
Yes.
Did you guys want to say anything else about that? About
okay.
From the county?
Yeah, I found it very invigorating and inspiring to be able to participate in a number of sessions that were addressing issues of racial equity and racial and other forms of equity in the broad expanse of the conversations. The particularly William Barber's keynote address, and I thought it was really well done, well organized, and kind of kept us going. I mean, it's the first time I've attended a conference of that length online, and but there was sort of a continuity to it that worked very well.
Thank you. And so raise your hand if you did attend the Facing Race conference. So, okay. So Rachel or Leslyn, did you guys want to say anything else about the conference or about debriefing with other staff?
I thought it was great. It was, there were definitely some glitches with so many people on a virtual conference, which was to be expected, but it went really smooth. For me, I had done some reading in the months before about third Reconstruction, and so it was really cool to hear people talk more about that and to learn a little bit more about that. Also, there was a lot around bringing joy and hope into the work, which is really important and easy to forget. And so that was really fun.
So the conference was okay for me. Haven't gone to Facing Race since they started doing the conferences. I missed a human touch. I missed, it didn't have the same vibe for me because, I wasn't around people and networking and, you know, sort of sharing in that way. But I thought the workshops, you know, that were offered were great. Like Rachel said, there were, you know, a few glitches because technical glitches, but for the most part, it was good. I like going to the race flicks, which is another thing I would encourage us as a county to think about. You know, it doesn't have to be a book that we read for reading and discussion. It could be one of those movies, and was thoroughly moved, although I knew the story, with the one where women in prison were being sterilized outside of their knowledge, and, you know, the actions that they have been taken to get some justice on that. And particularly Black women are the ones who this was being done to. So it was interesting. So I love the race flicks. I love the workshops, but I really like the race flicks because often I see something or hear something that I either didn't know was existing or, you know, was validated. So, but overall, I think the organizers who did that really pulled it off, you know, virtually. And I, you know, was glad to be there. And I didn't attend as part of the county, but I went on my own, so I was there.
Yeah, and just today I got the email with the links for the other breakout sessions that, because you could only go to the ones that you entered, and so they have sent us the links so we can now view the ones that we didn't get to check out during the actual conference. So we've got more to look into.
Oh, that's great. I saw an email come through, but I didn't open it yet, and I've been waiting for that because it was so hard to choose. There were so many good things going on. I was like, oh my God, how can I possibly choose? And then, you know, when I chose one, am I in the right one? Is this really the best one? There was so many. So I was so glad that they said early on that they're, you know, that they're going to be doing that. So I look forward to looking at those. And I've watched almost all of the flicks too, the different documentaries, and I checked a couple of them as was suggested about. That's something else that people, or that is the county that we could do and have maybe a discussion group about, or at least promote these. Because for me, sometimes I'm so busy, it's like, oh, I can put one of those on and then go fold my laundry or make my dinner, you know, or go exercise on my bike, or, you know, so it's and it was just really moving, you know, the documentaries in the movies. And I checked a couple of them. I didn't check them all, but at least a couple of them are available, you know, free online. So that's really nice, you know, and to hear those personal stories. I will second what I think it was Rachel that said that about it being uplifting. You know, this is really hard work, you know, and to hear just the positivity and the hope from people was really inspiring to me. And talking again and again about, well, people don't have the tools, but there are tools there, you know, out there. And I mentioned this at the legislature meeting last night, that, you know, we have a far way to go, and we just don't know how to do it, you know, even on the legislature. And we have, I would like to see us move that needle pretty far, and people just don't know. They just don't know what they don't know. I don't know what I don't know. So I'm looking forward to figuring out from bottom to top, you know, across, you know, across the every sector of our county, that we can, you know, improve things right now.
Mhm.
Any other comments on this?
They also had a virtual swag bag, which I thought was an amazing idea. And so we, thank you, Rachel. Rachel actually uploaded, actually had the debrief, and folks were so invigorated from the team. And so Not only did we had the debrief, but then there was like the 10-page email string because everybody had ideas and there was just so much synergy around the group. And so I finally jokingly said, let's put this in teams so we capture and we can harness all of this. And also we made the information available to Team Jedi. And so as I thought about this, maybe if it's okay with you, we could send an email to send the virtual swag back to folks on WDIC as well, folks who weren't able to attend, so they can access those resources as well.
That would be great. Thank you for doing that.
Sure.
It'd be something for the Diversity Consortium also.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I too found the conference uplifting. And one of the things that was said on the last day of the conference, something to the effect that, the nature of the resistance to these efforts is indicative of the fact that they're effective, that we are incrementally making progress, and social progress, on these types of issues is usually a grind. It's protracted struggle. But the fact that there is resistance tells us something. It was a way of putting in perspective the effort to center equity while also acknowledging the resistance to it. So that to me, I thought was valuable. Other thing I'll say too, for those of you who might be interested, William Barber wrote a book about 4 years ago, I guess, on the third Reconstruction, in which he talks about, first Reconstruction being the period from 1865 to 1877 after the Civil War, the second being the Black Freedom Movement of the 50s and 60s, and now this current moment. But the name of the book is called The Third Reconstruction: How a Moral Movement is Overcoming the Politics of Division and Fear. And he co-authored it with Jonathan Wilson Hartgrove, who, like Dr. Barber, is also a clergy person. And so if you're interested in that, that's available on Amazon and other online means.
Thank you, Ken.
Mm-hmm.
So I think now we'll move on to Deanna giving us an update on Team Jedi. Did you want to do this, or Amy? I guess you're more in charge of this now. Is that correct, Deanna?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
It's great. No, I saw Amy come to the screen. I thought she nodding yes. Want me to go? Okay. So, yes. So we jokingly called it a very public breakup on last Monday, just to make that transition, so the folks would know who's doing what, when, where, how, and how. And so we always say, it's not you, it's me. So from there, we were able to share with folks, what this looks like in terms of relationship, knowing that Amy is still supporting Team Jedi, still moving the principles forward across the organization in the areas that she's leading, but I would be assuming leadership for Team Jedi moving forward. What that means moving forward, at the last meeting, we talked about our shared working agreement. Dr. Gonzalez came and did a presentation when the group first started around microaggressions, and also what are the things that you need to do as a group to ensure that there's continuity in the work. And so holding each other accountable as a backstop for our own behavior as an organization as we do lead this work. And so we plan on wrapping that up and would love to share a draft with WDIC, just some of the work products and things that come from the group. In addition to, we have a draft of a vision statement, but we are holding on finalizing anything because we know we're working on Tompkins County values, and knowing that there will also be a diversity statement that will be more declarative statement around diversity, but then making sure that the Jedi statement rolls up into all those things and that everybody understands their roles and responsibilities as an organization. In addition to that, we also looked at the climate survey more in depth as a subcommittee as well. And a lot of folks to try and identify the focus areas for next year. A lot of the key things we're hearing about is communication around diversity, equity, and inclusion issues. Like, how do we become involved? What are the things that what do we stand for? Looking at shared language. We've also had some discussion around data and analysis. How do we know what our service delivery looks like in terms of the data that we collect? One example was looking at some of the language services and translation services that we have, because we have lots of foreign languages that we provide. And so how are we using those, and how do we know that they're impactful? Is another example. We also have a group that is interested in professional development. We've heard here multiple ideas related to books, readings, flicks, all those different things. And so how do we advance that work forward into those areas? And so, so from there, next month, we're going to propose the structure will be 5 or 6 work areas, and then also looking at how we make sure that WDIC is a partner to Team Jedi, this group, how we continue to marry ideas and ensure that everybody is accountable and ensuring that crosswalk and what that looks like. One of the things we've talked about is potentially having an executive committee between WDIC and having and Team Jedi. Nothing has been formalized. We're trying to propose that draft next month to ensure everybody is on the same page as far regarding that work. And so lots more coming to you, but I just wanted to share that brief update to keep you apprised of what's happening. And then also from an organization-wide communication, a plan to just provide communication to everybody. So just to keep everybody up to date. A lot of the work has been foundational, but at the same time, want to make sure there's not too many lags between communication so that folks feel like they can contribute, ask questions, and be involved. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions for Deanna? Okay, and thank you for that update. And then we have you on deck also to discuss the diversity consortium.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this will be brief. I just wanted to say how proud I was to be a part of Tompkins County. When we showed up strong and bold, all 6 or 7 of us that showed up to the diversity consortium last week. And so I know that I believe that Dr. Clark was a member before, and I think Leslyn, I think you mentioned that you had been involved before. And so our re-engagement with those folks, just letting them know that Tompkins County intends to be a leader in that discussion as we move forward. And then also our proposed structure for having the chair of WDIC and then the vice chair service standing members. So that also just making sure we're creating a structure and a process that ensures that no matter who's in the position, that we still have folks doing the work and making sure that things are organized in the way that they should be. And so I just was so happy to be a part of the team. And so this is really one of those moments where you pat yourself on the back. We don't do it very often, but when I looked at the landscape, when there were 30, 40 people in there, 6 or 7 up from this organization. So it just really was a good image of showing that we are standing up for the underserved. We're standing up for those who are marginalized. We're standing up for those who have been overlooked. And so we're making a statement that we're not going to continue to be overlooked, and also related to the work that we're going to be bold and proud and proclaim that Tompkins County stands for diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. And so I think as we continue to do that work in the community, I think that we're not just talking the talk, but we walking the walk in terms of the work. And so I look forward to us taking more action steps other than just showing up. But I just was so excited that I just wanted to put that on the agenda.
Thank you, Deanna. And I do believe they said for that meeting, and I'm assuming, I don't know if I'm correct, that for other meetings that you could invite other people to come, from your agency. So, I mean, maybe we could send that to WDIC when there's the next meeting. It's later in December, right?
That's correct. And absolutely, I'll confirm. They just said that the only rule they really had was in terms of voting, just making sure we have our slots allocated. But I think the more the merrier, and so proud to see our community standing up and trying to be more involved. They said that membership was booming, which I think is great. And I'm glad to see that Tompkins County wants to be a part. And then one of the things that came up was that they're going to fill some board positions. And it was also brought to my attention that they would love to see somebody at Tompkins County assume one of the board positions there. I think there will be 2 coming open. So wink, wink, Dr. Clark. I've already, just put people's names out there for work and service. So.
Wink, wink.
I think he winked. I'm not sure if he winked a little bit okay or he winked back at you. We'll see.
Just a little bit of really quick background. The Diversity Consortium of Tompkins County was founded by Tompkins County. It was a spinoff from the county's Affirmative Action Committee. So, myself, Gino Bush, rest his soul, and a couple of other people were engaged in the formation of the Diversity Consortium of Tompkins County. It's since merged and other organizations sort of took it over, but we were the backbone in the start of that organization.
Great. And Deanna, do you recall who our voting members are? So I'm a voting member.
Yes.
You are.
I am. Dr. Clark is a voting member. It will be Ruby, or I should say the HR commissioner will be a voting member, and so will I believe the recruiter when we have that person. Larry, I think. Okay.
I think we have 6 seats. As the originator of it, I think we assigned ourselves 6 seats.
Oh, okay.
The consortium. I think that's right, unless the new group has reduced how many voting seats we had. I think there were 6 available to us. We don't have to be called 6. We can always go back to the drawing board. But back in the day, we were like, yeah, we can take, majority control of this bad boy. So we can change it.
Absolutely. I'll confirm our number, but I know we filled all of them and some. And because I appreciate this. This is one of my favorite things about this particular group is that and this happens to be constantly in emails. I'll say we have 2 things and you guys will send me 10 names. So I'm like, okay, we're going to continue to push the system. We're going to continue to push forward. And so we're never going to not be included. We're going to join the party. We're going to take over the party. So I appreciate the spirit by which we work and lead here. And so Leslyn, thank you for your leadership and also that historical context. And that also clarifies for me why I've received such, a couple of folks have said, hey, Tompkins County, we would love to have a board seat. We'd like to have somebody be more involved. And so thank you for your leadership and vision and seeing that get started. But as we move forward, we'll continue to assume our seats and others.
And they had, I don't know if they have, so that was my first time attending. I don't know if they have something similar each time, but they had breakout sessions. They had, like a workshop going on during the meeting. So that was really great. And one of them was, imagining, in 5 years that you've reached all your diversity goals and what would that look like? And so one of the things that came to me as an inspiration was that we were just as now as far as the county goes, that we look at each thing like, what is the financial cost of this? And one of the things that dawned on me was that in the future, just as we look at, can we afford this or what's this going to cost, is we look at, who was most affected by this and who was not at the table. And, so just imagining that in the future, that's just part of our not even lens, that's just part of our makeup that we automatically do that. So anyway, so that was very inspiring for me. Any other comments or questions on that? So I encourage folks to go to one of those meetings or more if they can. Okay, Kit's got to leave now. And then Dr. Clark is going to give us a recap of your recent forum that you had on racial equity.
Right, yes, we held that on November 20th. And we invited Michelle Duguid, who is the Associate Dean for Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging at the Business School at Cornell, and Ben Duncan, thanks to Deanna, who referred me to him. Ben is the Chief Diversity and Equity Officer for Multnomah County, Oregon, where Portland is located, and where we were scheduled to go for the GARE conference in April before the pandemic hit. But they each spoke from their respective fields of higher ed and government in terms of how to center racial and other forms of equity. One of the things that Ben said that really I very liked was talking about leading inclusively with race in terms of centering equity, which implicates the fact that there's an intersectionality at work in terms of people with multiple identities and multiple ways of self-understanding in terms of, across the diversity spectrum. And that also too is reflective of the way in which there are other areas and other underrepresented communities whose issues and concerns need to be taken into consideration as we seek to create an equitable work environment. So I thought the program went well, and we had, I would say, probably somewhere in the vicinity of 20 to 30 participants. I think I can get more accurate numbers from Dominic on that. But I thought it was a very good discussion.
I watched it after the fact, which is nice that it's on YouTube that we can do that. Was anybody else able to tune in or have any comments or questions?
And all of our programs in this series are on the YouTube, the county's YouTube channel.
Let's see. So the last one, I'm looking it up here. So you had 91 views so far.
Oh, nice. Oh, great.
That's really good. And so as let's see, and it's nice that I don't know if, well, I think Jason's off here, but I'm wondering if this is something that once in a while we could, could send out to all employees, just to say, here's a link to all the ones that we've had so far, just to do a shout out to our employees, and maybe something. So this is, so that was your last one for the year, is that correct?
No, we've got one more coming up that we hope to confirm the date for that within the next several days.
Okay.
And, so there will be one in December, and that one will be focused on helping people who struggle with loneliness and depression amidst both, the holidays as well as the pandemic, and helping them to identify resources that can be of support to them. We're calling this program Confronting Our Winter of Discontent.
Very, very good. So the one where you the one right before the last one, the human rights and public health. Let's see, that had 135 views. The one before that, human rights, public health, and
all right, we are live.
The intersection, let's see, of racism, addiction, and poverty. That one had 464 views.
Yeah, we had 300 people who attended it when it was live. 250 actually, 300 by the end of that day.
Wow. And the first one you had 168 views so far. So maybe a compilation when they're all done, a compilation that Dominic can send out a press release or something for because I find a lot of value in watching these too. So it's nice that they're memorialized.
Yeah, it is great. And what our intent is going into 2021 is to continue to have a monthly series of programs that come from the office, and we may be working with public health as we did in this case for this fall series, but other partners as well.
So, any other comments or discussion questions for Dr. Clark? So it's not on the agenda, but I just wanted to think about our next meeting. So this is our last meeting for 2020, but typically, I believe, if Leslie can correct me, that the first month of the year, so for January, generally we don't have a new person that is assigned to be the chair for this committee. So I was planning on what we could do for January. Does that sound about right, Leslyn? So so for me, I'm thinking of that January is our last meeting kind of for the year. And what I was thinking for that is is to have someone from the Human Rights Commission come and speak to us, give us an update of what they've been up to, and then we can talk at that point if we would find it useful for them to come a couple times a year and how often, so we can have a better relationship with them.
Mhm.
And the other topic I was thinking was to do, I don't know when the last time this was done, but to do an overview of like a history lesson in how WDIC started, you know, who was who, you know, to give us, especially since we have some new people on this, just to do, so I was wondering if people would be interested in doing that, of going through the history of WDIC. I see a couple, 3, 4 thumbs up. Okay. So I asked Kit about this when I spoke with her last week, and I know because she's been involved longer, and I'll make sure Larry can, you know, or hopefully that Larry can attend. I know he's been on this for a long time, and Leslyn was instrumental in starting this. Is there anybody else that I should reach out to or to let them know, Leslyn, or anybody else? Or Lisa has a question?
I do, but it's unrelated, so we can finish this train of thought first.
Okay.
Not that I can think of. Lisa's being there as well.
Okay.
So yeah, I think you've got, you know, a good core group of people there already.
Okay. So that could kind of help, you know, memorialize it. Is there any documents or anything that we should look at or look up for the history, do you think?
I'll check with Kathy and we'll grab the minutes. You know, we'll grab the minutes of when it got started, and yeah, there's some history.
Okay.
I'll pull some information together.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kathy.
Sure.
So, and if I heard you correct, you're saying you're looking at this as the last meeting versus the first meeting of the year?
Well, I was looking at January as like the last meeting for my, you know, I don't know if I'm going to be, I don't know who's going to be the chair
Oh,
of the
okay.
WDIC
Okay.
next year. So I thought if the chairpersonship, I don't know, whatever, if the chair has, if that chair is the same chair through January, then January is my last meeting, right? So that's why I was kind of thinking it as that, and also thinking of it as to also be the one to help plan for that meeting versus I'm not going to be turning it over. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Okay, so I'll
Because you're
count on.
thinking goals for the committee, but yeah, that'll happen in the next meeting. Okay.
Right, I was thinking about maybe goals, but I thought if I'm not, I don't know if I'm going to be the chair, so maybe that could start, but we could maybe start that discussion. You know,
Okay.
depending on what else is on for that meeting. I just didn't want to do too much of the goals if I'm not the chair to push that.
Okay.
Is there anything else anybody wanted to bring up before we ended? Lisa?
I just wanted to remind you, I guess we had a discussion about employee workforce demographics.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. Right.
Maybe bringing to the January WDIC, which I'm glad to do if that fits in with the agenda. Also, that January will be the January 11th is going to be the first day of our new Human Resources Commissioner. So hopefully we'll be, you know, introducing her to this committee, because I know HR plays a huge role in WDIC. And just for everyone's information, in 2 weeks, our new recruitment administrator is going to begin, and that is that individual is Larry Workman, and he's worked for many years as doing recruitment for Challenge Industries. So he has a.
You said for Challenge?
Yes. So he has good knowledge and outreach into the community. Done it for many years, and I was pleased that Ruby was able to participate in those interviews because they will be working together.
Would Larry, do you think it would be appropriate to ask Larry to come to our first meeting?
To introduce him, sure.
Okay, great. And yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that, Lisa, that you and I had talked about that.
So, you know, and that's a report that HR can pull and provide. So you can just, you know, let us know if that will fit with that agenda, or, you know, because that'll be a good discussion. But we probably want to, you know, think about it strategically in terms of maybe goal setting or so on and so forth.
Okay, so so that will be something that will be in January too. So I talked to Lisa about like comparing our workforce demographics to the demographics into the community. And now I remember when this was brought up before, we have like certain goals that we were going towards that we had set. Does anybody remember that?
I don't know that we'd set them, but I think that it's a conversation, you know, I think that I remember having these conversations and trying to look at our county versus the contiguous counties and the recruitment area, and trying to establish what the baseline was. That was the last conversation I remember having on this topic.
Part of that conversation also for me had to do with not measuring, you know, the strength of our diversity numbers, if we're looking at numbers in comparison to the county numbers, the county census numbers, because that is just, it's poor out in the county, and we will actually be looking really good if that's what we're doing compared to what Tompkins County looks like. Tompkins County government, on the other hand, for us to be looking at what our numbers look like internally, measuring it against our internal numbers, not against the county. So, you know, what percentage of our workforce represent people of color? What percentage of our workforce that have identified, you know, are representative of people who identify as LGBTQ plus, et cetera, et cetera. And how do we make that balance look better, as opposed to measuring it against the full county numbers, which we know are not balanced by any means.
I'm not sure what you mean by that, Leslyn, that the county numbers aren't balanced.
Well, I'm talking about the county as a whole, our census numbers. I mean, if we were to compare our employee numbers, let's just take a category. Let's say African people who identified as Black or African American. The county itself, as county government, will probably be looking good in terms of our hire of people who identify as Black or African American compared to the census number of the entire county. That makes sense?
Yes.
So not using the census number, but instead measuring against our own internal numbers. What does it look like in county government? Does 2% of our entire workforce identify as a person of color or identify as people of color?
I think along with that, looking at retention as
Right.
well.
Retention, and more importantly to me, inclusion, and how many of those people actually feel like they're valued and respected and, you know, add to the fabric of our organization.
Absolutely.
Those were the conversations we were having. Yes, we can get the demographics. We always want to see the demographics. But if we have 27 departments, and of those 27 departments, only 2 can show that they have any person of color working for them, that's a problem for me.
Right. Right. That and what positions that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Okay. All right. So that will be a robust discussion that we'll have on that. Any other comments or discussion on that? All righty. So I know you guys hear this all the time, but I hope you have safe holidays until I see you in this format in late January. And please be careful. I know I don't want to assume, but sometimes I think about, well, people that are involved in county government, we hear this repeatedly, but, you know, to be safe and wear your masks and, you know, and try not to go to big gatherings. But I'm hearing, you know, a lot of people thinking, well, I'm the exception, you know, and I'm going to go do this. And so please, I want everybody to be safe out there. I value you all. And so please be careful. One person, I try to rationalize that with myself sometimes. Well, I can do this, and I know how to make this safe. And we're not always in as much control of the situation as we would like to think. So please, everybody, be safe out there. Encourage other people to do that, and share with other people too, you know, any fun ways to do it. We had a bunch of Zoom meetings over Thanksgiving, and it was kind of fun, and got off, you know, with like my partner, she got on a big Zoom meeting with her family, and I realized, oh, I didn't actually have to sit there the whole time. I just like put my head in there and was like, hi, and said hi to people. And then I got to, you know, go into the kitchen, you know, and have a glass of wine, and and I didn't have to clean up after all these people, and I didn't have to cook for them, and they were gone in an hour. So anyway, so kind of share some fun ways and, you know, ways to connect that are different. And we've also been doing karaoke around our house more, you know, dancing and singing. And I don't have the videos for that, maybe next month, but just trying to do different things to keep our spirits up. So any parting words before we all leave today?
I have a terrible idea, but I'm still positive. When you just said that, I think it'd be really awesome if we could get like a season's greetings from this group, you know, in terms of things, you know, like if we could do a virtual or Zoom box of like of some kind of like holiday cheer. So I'll keep that because I don't see too many positive nodding heads, but I'm like, we could really bring the holiday spirit.
Yeah, it sounds good. I'm not sure how it'll work, but you know, I'm happy to woohoo and season's greetings and happy holidays, everyone.
Well, we could do a round real quick. You mean like right now? And we could ask Dominic to like take a little snapshot out right now.
I guess Dominic is here, isn't he? I always forget that he's everywhere. So who wants to lead us, and what would that be?
It's hard to do it all together. I think. I don't know. I would almost want to go around, because once you have more than one person talking, I think it quiets everybody else. We learned that from trying to sing happy birthday to Jason.
Okay.
Do we just want to go around of saying happy holidays and whatever you want to say to people?
Sure.
Who wants to go first?
I'll start. I'll say, on behalf of the Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee and Tompkins County government, especially our legislature, season's greetings and happy holidays to everyone. Please stay safe, wear your mask, wash your hands, and do all the things that you need to do so that we can be together next year.
Thank you. And also on behalf of our Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee, we want to include everybody in our holiday celebrations in creative ways, but we want to make sure that you're all included for the holidays next year. So be safe, have fun, and happy holidays, everybody.
On behalf of the Tompkins County Office of Human Rights, we want to wish all of you a safe and happy and a wonderful holiday season, and to wish that all of you will be safe, wear masks, take all the necessary precautions necessary to take care of you and yours, as well as others.
I'll say on behalf of Tompkins County Administration and Tompkins County Human Resources, hope everyone enjoys safe and happy and fun-filled holidays.
On behalf of Tompkins County as the new Chief Equity and Diversity Officer, I couldn't be happier to be celebrating my first Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, all the holidays that we are including in this organization. So in agreement with them, cover your face, wash your hands, make sure that you socially distance as appropriate, but also more than anything, keep other humans in mind and let them know that you care about them just as much as they care about you.
And on behalf of the Tompkins County Clerk's Office and WDIC, have a wonderful and safe holiday with all of your friends and loved ones virtually.
And on behalf of the Legislature's office, happy holidays to everyone. Be safe and healthy. Thank you.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Bye.
Happy
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
And don't forget to give to United Way. Happy holidays.
That was great, everybody. Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, Kathy and Michelle, Leslin.